Funny how people unsubscribe from your life without notice. One day they swear forever, the next they're gone. But hey, if you're here, hit subscribe. It's free, unlike loyalty. Have you ever watched someone dig their own grave in real time? Because that's exactly what my ex-wife Jessica did in court. I should have seen it coming. The entire divorce process had been a disaster. Delays, tantrums, and pointless filings just to waste my time. If Jessica had put half as much effort into our marriage as she did into making my life miserable, we wouldn't have been in that courtroom. But when she walked into the hearing pregnant, I almost laughed. Not because I thought the child was mine, I knew it wasn't, but because I could see her plan unfolding like a bad soap opera plot. Jessica was hoping to play the role of the abandoned, helpless, pregnant woman, expecting the judge to take pity and order me to pay up. Forget the prenup. Forget logic. She was banking on manipulation. I could already hear the dramatic speech she had prepared. Your Honor, I have a baby on the way and I've been left with nothing. How am I supposed to survive? She expected me to squirm under the pressure. Too bad for her, I don't play dumb and I never lose. Jessica had underestimated me. She had no idea that I had already exposed her lies months ago. She had no idea that the judge was about to ask a single question that would destroy her entire scheme. Jessica strode into the courtroom, confidence dripping from her every step. One hand rested on her belly, the other brushed her hair back delicately, as if she weren't about to commit blatant legal fraud. She even sighed dramatically as she took her seat, feigning exhaustion. I didn't react. I didn't have to. Because unlike Jessica, I wasn't going in blind. I was ready. My lawyer, Ethan, sat beside me. Ethan was the kind of guy who smiled in court while ripping you apart with the law. I didn't care much for lawyers, but after watching him dismantle Jessica's schemes over the past few months, I was relieved he was on my side. Jessica, on the other hand, had burned through 3 different lawyers during the divorce. The one she had today was fresh out of law school, a rookie. Poor guy. He had no idea what he was in for. Jessica had pulled stunts before, not the pregnancy trick but the manipulation. The crocodile tears. The, I'm just a struggling woman, Your Honor, please take pity on me performance. Some people fell for it, including my own mother. A week before the hearing she called me. Just settle, she urged, exhaustion in her voice. You don't want this dragging on forever. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Mom, she doesn't get a penny. That's why we had a prenup. But, she's pregnant. Do you really want that on your conscience? I nearly lost it. This isn't my kid, Mom. Silence. Are you sure? I almost laughed. Am I sure? Mom, she cheated on me. Repeatedly. I caught her. I exhaled sharply. And you know what the worst part is? If I actually thought this child was mine, I wouldn't fight it. I'd step up. I'd take care of them. That's the difference between us. She plots. I take responsibility. Mom sighed. I just don't want to see this get uglier. Too late. It was already ugly. And now, in the courtroom, I sat back as the trap Jessica had set for me was about to snap shut, on her instead. The judge entered. The hearing began. Jessica's rookie lawyer jumped right in, voice trembling with emotion. Your Honor, my client has been placed in an untenable situation. She is pregnant, unemployed, and struggling under the weight of this prolonged divorce. Right on cue, Jessica sniffled. I didn't blink. Ethan waited, calm and composed, allowing the theatrics to play out. Then, when the moment was right, he stood. Your Honor, while we certainly sympathize with Miss Parker's situation, there are a few crucial facts that need to be addressed before proceeding. And just like that, the game was over. Ethan turned to Jessica's lawyer, his voice calm but cutting. Who is the father of this child? The question hit the air like a gunshot. Jessica froze. I knew it was coming. She, on the other hand, hadn't expected it at all. She had convinced herself that the court wouldn't dare scrutinize her pregnancy, that she could waltz in, play the fragile victim, and walk out with a fat check. But legally? Her pregnancy only mattered if I was the father. Her lawyer hesitated, clearly flustered. Then, in the softest, weakest voice, he muttered, My client believes it is the petitioner's. I nearly laughed. Believes? That was all they had? Ethan didn't even blink. She believes? So there's no proof. Jessica shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The judge's eyes narrowed. Miss Parker, have you had a paternity test done? Jessica's mouth opened. Then closed. Then opened again. She was trapped. I just assumed. The judge's expression didn't change. You assumed? His voice dripped with disbelief. Miss Parker, is there any evidence to suggest the petitioner is the father? Her lawyer suddenly looked like he wanted to disappear. Jessica looked pale. I leaned back in my chair enjoying the show. Ethan, completely unfazed, went in for the kill. Your Honor, we have compelling evidence that this child is not my client's. He placed a stack of photos on the table, clear, damning images of Jessica just 2 months after our separation on vacation with another man. They weren't just standing next to each other. They were holding hands, kissing. And then, the final nail in the coffin, Ethan slid medical records across the table. Additionally, we have subpoenaed Miss Parker's recent medical records, which confirmed that her first positive pregnancy test occurred months after she and my client were last together. Jessica's face crumpled. Her lawyer turned to her, his expression screaming, "You didn't tell me any of this." The judge let out a long sigh, rubbing his temples before shaking his head. Miss Parker, this court does not tolerate dishonesty. Given the evidence presented, there is no legal basis for financial support. The prenuptial agreement stands. You will not receive alimony or any further compensation. Boom. Jessica gasped as if someone had physically struck her. Your Honor. This hearing is over. The judge didn't even let her finish. Done. Jessica sat there, stunned as the reality set in. She had walked in expecting to leave with a steady stream of my money. Instead, she had been publicly exposed as a liar. Her lawyer wouldn't even look at her. He just stared at the floor, probably re-evaluating every decision that led him to take on her case. Jessica's hands clutched the table, as if she could somehow hold on to the last shreds of her plan. But it was over. And then the tantrum began. But Your Honor, she screeched, voice high-pitched with desperation. This isn't fair. I'm going to have a baby and he just gets to walk away. The judge inhaled sharply, visibly exhausted. Miss Parker, he said firmly, this court does not make financial decisions based on emotional appeals. Your pregnancy has no legal bearing on this divorce unless paternity is confirmed, which it has not been. But, the judge raised a hand. Enough. Jessica snapped. She spun in her chair, glaring at me with pure hatred. Are you really going to do this? To your own child? There it was. Her last, desperate gamble. Even after being completely humiliated, she still tried to plant doubt. The courtroom fell silent. I didn't take the bait. Instead, I smiled, slow, pleased, and merciless. You really want to do this, Jessica? I leaned forward, my voice calm, deliberate. Do you want to go on record accusing me of being the father? Because we can request a court-ordered paternity test right now. Her face twitched. She had nothing. She knew she had nothing. Everyone in the room could feel it. This was checkmate. The judge didn't even acknowledge her anymore. He simply turned to the clerk. We're done here. Jessica had lost everything. But for me, this wasn't over yet. The aftermath, Jessica's last stand. The hearing ended and I walked out of the courtroom with Ethan by my side. My mother followed a few steps behind. For a second, I expected Jessica to slip away quietly, to accept defeat and leave. But I should have known better. She stormed out after me, heels clacking, face red, hands shaking. You're a monster, she spat. You let me sit there and be humiliated. I turned to her, slowly, taking in her disheveled appearance. I'm sorry, Jessica. I paused, watching her breath hitch. Which part embarrassed you? The part where you tried to defraud the court? Or the part where I was 3 steps ahead of you the entire time? Her jaw clenched. You set me up. I chuckled. No, sweetheart. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. You set yourself up. I just let you walk into it. For a moment, she looked ready to throw something at me. Then, as if realizing she had one last shot, she turned to my mother. Are you really okay with this? After what he just did to me? My mother crossed her arms. Her voice was quiet but firm. I'm not okay with what you did to him. She exhaled sharply. You tricked us all once. Never again. Jessica's lips quivered. For a split second, I thought she might actually cry. And then, the real explosion. I hope you rot, she shrieked, stepping closer as if she meant to scratch my face off. I hope you. Miss Parker. A firm, authoritative voice cut through the chaos. And just like that, Jessica's last hope vanished. The moment the firm voice rang through the hallway, Jessica froze. 2 court officers had entered, their expressions unreadable. Come with us, please. Jessica's head snapped up, panic flashing in her eyes. What? Why? One of the officers stepped forward. The judge has recommended an inquiry into potential perjury and fraud. Jessica staggered back. Wait, no. That's not. But it was already too late. They were leading her away, back into the courtroom she had just tried to escape from. I let out a slow breath, watching it all unfold. Beside me, Ethan gave my shoulder a light tap. Well, that was satisfying. I smirked. Yeah, it was. The aftermath: Jessica's house of cards falls apart. Jessica was hauled back to face the judge, but I didn't follow. I didn't need to. She was no longer my problem. But I made sure to follow up. Turns out, the judge wasn't just angry, he was making an example out of her. Faking financial distress? But attempting to manipulate the court? Worse, lying under oath? Now that was perjury. And perjury? That wasn't something she could cry her way out of. Jessica's false claims had backfired spectacularly. The court not only dismissed her alimony request but also flagged her for potential financial fraud. Over the next few months, I heard bits and pieces of her downfall. Small Blue Diamond, she was fined for wasting the court's time. Small Blue Diamond, her lawyer dropped her immediately. No one wanted to be associated with a liar. Small Blue Diamond, her attempt to apply for government assistance? Denied. Turns out, even the system needs proof of paternity. Small Blue Diamond, and the cherry on top? Her new boyfriend dumped her. Apparently, when Ethan revealed the vacation photos in court, the guy had done some quick math. He realized he wasn't the only man Jessica had been with, and suddenly, he wasn't so sure he was the father anymore. I can only imagine the meltdown she had when she realized she had lost everything. Freedom at last. A few months after the trial, I received a text from an unknown number. It was Jessica. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a second. Then, with a small smirk, I typed back. I am. Thanks for asking. Then I blocked the number. She had spent years trying to manipulate, control, and drain me for everything I had. But now, she was alone. And for the first time in a long, long time, I was free. Does this story resonate with you? Have you ever dealt with someone who tried to manipulate their way through life, only to have karma catch up with them? Share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, the truth always wins. If you enjoyed this story and found a valuable lesson in it, don't forget to like, comment, share. Subscribe for more real-life stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. Thanks for reading.